again, welcome Radio Land to another show, Dreamakers of God. We're so happy that you tuned in with us tonight as we continue to celebrate Black History Month, 365 days a year. Let us open with prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the architects of this great show that come on every day through the likes of Brother Earl Winfrey, who is producing, as well as Wanda B, who assists him on a daily basis. And we thank you for their ability to pull this off. Now, Lord, I ask that you bless the listening audience as we discuss tonight two more great pioneers in American history, which is part of the African American history as well. In Jesus' name, amen. Tonight, we will spotlight for the second time in many weeks the great Mayor Harold Washington. As far as I'm concerned, he's still the mayor of Chicago, even in his death. We will have a special call-in guest who will call us his time at 6:30 out on the West Coast and 8:30 our time, be calling in from Las Vegas, Nevada. My good friend, homeboy here in Chicago, homegrown, who knows Chicago like the back of his hand, a great political worker here in Chicago history, who was there for Mayor, I would say Mayor Daley, the old man, before he became mayor, when he was a city clerk. And he knows all about this city that can take us way back to the early 50s, if not, the early 50s. And we're going to discuss the last years and days of Mayor Washington. And guess what? Before we do that, we're going to move into athletics and talk about the man that really laid out a wonderful plan for athletes to follow, because he was not just running in his profession, but he set the bar, won 4 gold medals, and put this country, United States, on his shoulders during a very tough time before World War II. That is the great one, Jesse Owens. And it's a strange thing about how his name came to be Jesse Owens. His name is officially on record, not necessarily Jesse Owens, but you're going to learn tonight how Jesse got his name, but that is not his official name as his birth certificate will state. But he ran rather in front of Hitler, drove Hitler crazy in Berlin, and won. A black athlete. Never had happened before, Brother Winfrey. A black athlete during one of the toughest times to be an African American to win 4 gold medals before Carl Lewis and the rest of those great guys, Green and so many other ones, and Usain Bolt. There was, and always will be, Jesse Owens. So first up, let's talk about Jesse Owens, because I've got to hurry. We've got about 23 minutes, and you're going to be definitely enthralled and enthused by our call-in guest, who is Maynard Edwards. But Jesse Owens' name is officially called James Cleveland Jesse Owens. He was born September the 12th, 1913, and left this life physically, should I say, March 31st, 1980. He was an American track and field and 4-time Olympic gold medalist in the 1936 Games. Owens specialized in sprints. Any young people that you know that love to sprint, watch the tapes, read about him. Long jump. He was recognized in his lifetime as perhaps the greatest and the most famous athlete in track and field history. Let me repeat that. He is perhaps There's no argument, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest and the most famous athlete in track and field history. Parker, how do you know that? Listen. His achievement setting 3 world records and tying another in less than an hour at the 1935 Big Ten track meet in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He has been called the greatest 45 minutes ever in sports. He has never been equal. You hear me? Never been equal. At the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin, Germany, Owens achieved international fame by winning 4 gold medals. The first, he won the 100 meters, the 200 meters. I did my homework. The long jump. And he won the 4x100 meter relay. He is the most successful athlete at the games, and a black man was credited with single-handedly crushing, as I said earlier, Hitler's myth of the Aryan supremacy, although he wasn't invited to the White House to shake hands with the president. He was not invited. And I believe that is Roosevelt or that is Truman, 1936, if my record serves me correctly. Not to take anything away from the Oval Office, but they did not invite him to the White House. Owens was the youngest of 10 children. There were 3 girls and 7 boys born to Henry Cleveland Owens. I have to give us this lesson about this man. His father was a sharecropper, and Mary Emma Fitzgerald in Oakville, Alabama, on September the 12th, was born a son they called JC. Now watch this. JC, as he was called, was 9 years old when the family moved to Cleveland, Ohio. Listen. For better opportunities as part of the Great Migration. When 1.5 million Americans left the segregated South. When his new teacher asked him his name to enter in the roll book, guess what he said? He said JC. But because of his strong accent, Jesse Owens had a strong accent, she thought he said Jesse. So the name struck, and he was known as Jesse Owens for the rest of his life. That's where he would get the name Jesse Owens. Isn't that great news? And as a youth, Owens took different jobs in his spare time. He was a hard-working young man. Most of your successful black people were hard-working. I remember talking about Dr. King. Dr. King worked on sugar canes. He worked in sugar canes outside of Boston. So he wasn't always studying the books. He had to have extra money. He did it legally. And Jesse Owens delivered groceries. He loaded freight cars. He worked in a shoe repair shop while his father and older brothers worked at the steel mill. During this period, Owens realized that he had a passion for running. That's where it all started at. And throughout his life, Owens attributed the success of his athletic career to the encouragement. Is always somebody in your life. Charles Riley, a junior high track coach at Fairmont Junior High School. Since Owens worked in a shoe repair shop after school, Riley allowed him to practice before school instead. So he receives his college training at Ohio State University after his father found employment, which ensured that the family would be supported. I thank God that his father had a job, but at some point he wasn't working, but he was able to find employment. So affectionately known as the Buckeye Bullet, and under coach Larry Snyder, Owens won a record 8 individual, did you hear me? 8-time individual NCAA champion, 4 of each in 1935 and in 1936. Wow, that's amazing. On December the 4th, 1935, the NAACP secretary, Walter White, wrote a letter, which he never actually sent to Jesse Owens. But in his letter, he was trying to dissuade Owens from taking part in the Olympics on the grounds that an African American should not promote a racist regime after what his community has suffered at the hands of white racists in his own country. Listen, in the months prior to the game, the movement in favor of the boycott gained momentum. Owens was convinced by the NAACP to declare, and I quote, "If there are minorities in Germany who are being discriminated against, the United States should withdraw from the 1936 Olympics." Yet Owens and others eventually took part after Avery Brundage, the president of the American Olympic Committee, branded the advocates of a boycott as un-American agitators. Now listen, in 1936, Owens and his United States teammates sailed on the SS Manhattan and arrived in Berlin to compete at the Summer Olympics. According to fellow American sprinter James Laval, who ran the bronze in the 400 meters. Now listen, people, what if he hadn't gone to Berlin? There would not be 4 gold medals. What if he had not gone to Berlin? We would not even know Jesse Owens' name. I'm glad he went to Berlin. He went there not only to represent the American country, he went there to represent Black Americans, and I thank God for his life. So on August the 3rd, if he hadn't gone there, he would not have won the 100 dash with a time of 2.3 or 10.3, defeating his teammate and college friend Ralph Metcalfe by a 1/10 of a second. Do you hear me? And he defeated Tinus Oosterdorp of the Netherlands by 2/10 of a second. What if he hadn't gone there? On August the 4th, if he hadn't gone there, he would not have won the long jump with a leap of 8.06 meters, which is, he jumped 26 feet 5 inches, Brother Earl. Did you hear me? I'm going to repeat that. If he hadn't gone there, radio audience, whoever is listening, he would not have jumped 26 feet 5 inches, 3/1/4 inches short of his own world record. And he later credited the achievement to the technical advice he received from Lutz Long, the Germany competitor whom he defeated. Now you tell me, he should have stayed here in America. No, I'm glad he went. And Max Robinson, the older brother of Jackie Robinson, he defeated them. On August the 9th, Owens won his 4th gold medal. What if he hadn't gone there? The 4x100 sprint relay, when his head coach Lawson Roberts replaced Jewish American sprinter Marty Glickman and Sam Stoller with Owens and Metcalfe. If he hadn't replaced them, they would not have won the 4x100 relay. So Ralph Metcalfe is in history. And of course, Jesse Owens is in history. He teamed up also with Frank Radcliffe and Foy Draper to set a new world record, a record of 39.8 in the event. And Owens initially protested the last minute switch, but assistant coach Dean Cromwell said to him, quote, "You do as you are told." And Jesse Owens, a record-breaking performance of 4 gold medals, was not equal until, check this out, nobody equaled him until Carl Lewis won the gold medals in the same event when the Soviets boycotted the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. I saw that. I was 18 years old. Good history lesson. So don't tell me we don't need Black history. In the way things are going in our country now, our inner cities, we need Black history. If they integrated, they still should have taken Black history with them. And that's one thing that I thank God that I was able to learn and teach and read myself about Black history. Now check this out. Owens set that world record, the long jump, with a leap of 18 or 8.13 meters, and that again was 26 feet inches. That record stood for 25 years. Very rare length of time for a track and field record until it was finally broken by Ralph Boston in 1960. Coincidentally, Owens was a spectator at the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome when Boston took the gold medal in the long jump. But that's all right, because by that time he was 47 years old. He had already been to the mountaintop in his profession. And that's what this show is really all about, is to help young people and grown people. I don't care if you got a dream. This show is to help motivate you to reach your zenith, to reach your promised land in whatever your profession is. And that's what this is all about. Life after the Olympics. Let's talk about that with Jesse Owens, because I got about 10 minutes left before our call-in guest will tell us about the last days and the last years, again, of my mayor and your mayor, Mayor Harold Washington. He heard about it, and not only that, he was there to witness the last days and the last years of Mayor Harold Washington's life. He knows about it. But I want to talk about Jesse Owens for just a few more minutes, the life after the Olympics. Owens was quoted saying the secret behind success, and I want you to listen to this, is this, quote, "I let my feet spin as little time on the ground as possible. From the air, fast down, and from the ground, fast up." I'm going to repeat that. How was he successful? What was his secret? Quote, "I let my feet spin as little time on the ground as possible. From the ground, or from the air, fast down, and from the ground, fast up." Owens decided to capitalize on his success by returning to the United States. He spent a lot of time competing over in Sweden. United States athletic officials were furious and withdrew his amateur status. You see how people do you? Which immediately ended his career. Owens was angry, saying a fellow desired something for himself. Owens argued that racial discrimination he had faced throughout his athletic career, such as not being eligible for scholarships in college and therefore being unable to take classes between training and working to pay his way, meant he had to give up amateur athletics in pursuit of financial gain elsewhere. So Jesse Owens in 1946 joined Abe Saperstein in the formation of the West Coast Baseball Association, a Negro baseball league. Yes, he knew something about baseball. Owens was vice president and the owner of the Portland, Oregon Rosebuds franchise. Yeah, he toured with the Rosebuds, sometimes entering the audience between double hitter games by competing in the races against horses. So we're going to pause here and we'll pick up Owens later. If not, my guest is calling in. We got him now. All righty. How's my friend Maynard Edwards?
Okay, there, fella.
All righty. We're so glad that you decided to call in. I've already tooted your horn and told the internet/radio land all about you. Probably the most important political worker in Chicago history, modern history, and I'm giving you that. I told them you knew about Mayor Daley.
That's real nice of you there, fella.
Thank you. You knew more about Mayor Daley before he became the mayor, old man Daley. And I told them, and you mentioned it last time you were here 2 weeks ago, how you were there and knew him as city clerk. And of course, I'm going to let you take it from there.
City clerk.
Oh, yeah. Well,
county clerk.
County clerk.
Yeah, he
so
signed
glad.
my birth certificate.
That's it. County clerk.
Right.
And we're so happy that you have tuned in again with us tonight for part 2 of Harold Washington's last years and days. I'm going to let you take it from here. We thank God again for Manus Edwards.
From his demise till, his last days, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can start anywhere you like. Anywhere you like.
All right. Well, I retired from the phone company in 86 in order to go to Atlanta, Georgia, and was sent there by the mayor himself. I was supposed to work with Thacker Construction. That's the guy that built the Atlanta airport, who was one of Mayor Washington's close buddies. He loaded with money, It seems as though he had quite a few people hanging around him with nothing but money, and they were black. And he had them pretty much all his life, to tell you the truth. So he never would have run out of money. And so I guess that leads us to what happened to him. Well, Harold never trusts anyone, but the people. You know how the saying goes in Chicago, you never meet new friends, only associates, Your friends you have forever. And he was that kind of guy, kind of private, although he appeared to be outgoing. He never was that type. His friends were many. His associates were many, but he had like I say, he didn't trust anybody. So you hear these people talking about, they know Harold. Well, I've known him ever since I was born. And, he'll have me do something and he's always got somebody to check you out to make sure you're doing exactly what he asked you to do. And we work for free. Harold is the only politician in Chicago that I know of that people would gladly, because he was that kind of guy, dynamic, not just the mayor, but the person, dynamic person. Anyway, just before I called in, I said, well, let me see. It's been on the back of my mind for years. I just never sat down to really try to do it. And I just I just started, I'd say approximately 15, 20 minutes before I called in. I waited too late, really, to conclude my research on, what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to find out of Harold's friends, the money guys, and like I'm telling you, all black. What happened to them? When did they meet their demand? When did they make their transition? And I only got through a few, and I'm going to have to. I think that's important, and I just thought about it. To actually go through with it today. So let me give you an idea as to when Thacker, now, he financed Harold Washington's bid for mayor. And it's also rumored that somebody else did too, which was possibly Richard M. Daley. I think, and it's been rumored all those years. that Harold and Gus had just been inaugurated in the U.S. House. Okay, as congressman, and I think that was 81. And no sooner as he did that and acquired some campaign debt, he decided to run for mayor of the city of Chicago, which was predicated on that Jane Byrne redistricting map, the new map, and they named it after Jane Byrne, which caused a lot of problems in the black neighborhood. But it's purported that he was paid to run spoiler for the mayor. Run spoiler in the mayor's race as a spoiler, put it that way. And I might have done it myself. This is his second time out. The first time he went out was in '77. He ran for mayor, but that was a test situation to see who would come out to how much of the black vote could he really garner, and to see what he could draw from the lakefront, the lakeside liberals, and he did quite well in '83. But I say all of that to say that it would have been rather difficult if the mayor, if the Congressman Washington had to retire that debt and then create new debt to run for mayor. That's the long haul. But he did it. But it has always been said that one or the other, Jane Byrne or Richard M. Daley, paid to get him to run as a spoiler because they didn't figure, it don't make sense to me, but this is what's been out there a long time. It didn't make sense to me that Daley would do it because Harold being such a dynamic person, and we know what they wanted to do was to split the black vote. Jane Byrne was not a popular Irish woman, so I think, it still didn't make sense. It's a iffy proposition. But nonetheless, that's what's out there. But what I was looking at today is, you don't know any of these people, I don't think. Alderman Benjamin Lewis, West Side, 24th Ward. Okay, now, he's the guy that was shot 4 times in the head. Back in, that was 63. 63 was a busy year, buddy. Because we also lost everything else. Kennedy, the March on Washington. I'm trying to think what else happened in 63. Quite a bit happened in 63. Alderman Perry Hutchinson. You remember? No, that's right. You don't know any of these guys, do you? Reverend Parker?
That's correct. Wasn't born then. That's okay.
Now, he was the alderman of the 9th Ward.
In the 9th Ward. Okay.
Right. And he was indicted, serving time, and they shipped him to Chicago from Terre Haute, federal pen, to the what's the name? Metropolitan Correctional Center there on Van Buren here in Chicago. Now, the reason why they sent him here, he was supposed to turn state's evidence on somebody. And he didn't make it. That's Perry Hutchinson. He's a childhood friend of mine. So he left, and he left before, just before Harold. So that was 88. No, 87. That was 87 too, I believe, 87 or 88. And Harold made his transition November 87. He had just won re-election.
That's right.
Another financial backer was Charles Moore. That's Moore Construction. You never heard of them?
Either. Yes, I have. Oh, I've heard of them. I have.
Charles F. Moore Construction?
The Moore Construction. Yeah, I've heard of that construction company. Mm-hmm.
He took care of everybody. You know, he was a construction magnate just like Thacker in Atlanta was. Well, all these people end up leaving here around the same time. You know, close to, I say, at the max, 18 months apart. George Collins, now he left in 70. He was quite young when he left. He was 47 years old. He was an alderman. I believe he was an alderman. And then became a congressman. But he left made his transition in a plane. Plane crash. Thacker, plane crash. Charles F. Moore. You know, there's a church. Have you heard of Good Shepherd?
I have heard of Good Shepherd. What denomination? Do you know what denomination is that? Is that Baptist?
I don't know. It's been around a long time, and that was Charles F. Moore's church.
Church home.
He wasn't a pastor.
Right.
But he took care of everybody in the church, getting them jobs and the whole bit. His office, his wife, still runs, I think she still owns the office on 87th, around 8727, I think it is, State Street in Chicago. That was his office. He's responsible for building a whole lot of real estate here in Chicago. I haven't gotten to all of them, but there's Alderman Benjamin, Alderman Perry Hutchinson, Charles F. Moore Construction, Thacker Construction, Harold Washington himself, George Collins. All of this was going on, believe it or not, from 83 to about 90 or 92, almost 10 years. Across Ron Brown, who was Gus used to call him Ron Beige. He didn't think he was black enough. But he was head of the Department of Commerce.
Yes, I've heard of him.
U.S. Department of Commerce.
Yes. I've heard of him.
Yeah, well, he died in a plane crash and took all 10 with him. There was 10 on the plane.
That's right.
Everybody that had reached some pinnacle in life as it relates to elected office, something happened to him, and they all black men, the financial benefactors, the elected officials themselves. And believe it or not, in 83, we had, with Harold going in 83, believe it or not, 83 across this nation, we had won some significant races as mayor throughout the whole nation, and believe it or not, it was all taken back. It was all taken back for numerous reasons. But Alabama, I think it was Alabama, mayor for the first time, cities across the nation for the first time elected. That's how electrifying it was for Harold to be in a race in a city like this. It just picked up and everybody was really eyes on Harold. That's not just America, everywhere all over the world, really.
Yes.
So I'm going to get that for you and put it in chronological order here and see what it looks like as far as the dates that these powerful people made their transition, because it's beginning to scare me. I had this on my mind for years and just never sat down to do it. So how long are you going to have this program? Are you going to continue to?
I do plan on having a show on Monday nights at 8 o'clock. Yeah, continuously. That's right.
Well, that would be one to really keep our eyes on. I want to provide for nothing else but for my own benefit, because I've been harboring this idea that a lot happened, a whole lot happened, and which caused these elected officials to to pass, to expire.
Yes.
And I find it really interesting. Let's see, what else I want to tell you about Harold? Oh, security. Oh, and the reason why I think Harold was killed, as opposed to what everybody else thinks. One of Harold's buddies, younger guy, you know Steve Coakley?
Yes.
He's passed now.
I do remember watching his clippings on YouTube. He's passed. Did he have cancer or something like that? That's what they say.
Yes, he did. But he was run out of town.
Yes.
He was told not to ever come back. So he'd sneak in and we'd have a drink or whatever and talk. But he sold me on the fact that Harold was murdered. And a whole lot of other people think the same way. This guy, Harold, had, how would you say, he had his main security, which is on the city payroll. And he had street people because he knew everybody, and everybody loved Harold. If I'd see him anywhere, I know how to talk to him to find out if, in fact, he want me to hang around a bit, and he does this he did it with everybody. Not everybody, but quite a few people. So let me give you, for instance, he'll come up to Army and Lou's on 75th Street with his detail and to eat. He always find time to eat now, And if I'm there, regardless of what I'm doing, I'll gesture him, and he'll gesture me. Now, if he uses his hand to tell me just sit, then I'm gonna stay. And what he tells the people he's with, I have no idea. But this happens everywhere you go. You know what I mean? Because he's going to show up, especially if there's some food around.
Yes.
So he's actually had numerous layers of unpaid security. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
It's just unbelievable. And he didn't ask that. He didn't plan for it. It just happened. You know, and we're not looking for any pay or anything. I mean, how are you gonna get paid like that? You know what I mean? And we didn't have to even discuss. I mean, greet or talk to anybody. Just hang around and keep your eyes open. Which told me, and this came out of his mouth now. There ain't no tell you, you can't trust nobody. You know, he constantly tell you that. You don't know what these people will do. You know, and I do believe by him telling everybody that he was going to be the mayor for the next 20 years, that he meant it. And I don't see nothing could have stopped him. And I don't believe he was, not with the way he eat. I mean, and run all day. So he burns it off. But so I never believed the enlarged heart theory and all that other crap. Plus, the autopsy was botched to begin with.
I agree.
So, hey, but that tells you something. You know, whenever a black reaches that plateau where you can move, encourage, organize people, stuff happens.
That's right.
And I tell you, the ones nothing ever happened to. Obama and Jesse Jackson, Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Yes.
Don't pose no threat. You follow me?
I follow you.
Oh, yeah. It's been that way forever. You know, the ones that don't pose no threat, nobody worries about. You know. So, anyway, that's one of the reasons why I began to look and to do a little research on when these powerful people made their transition. Another one was staunchly tied to Al Pritchard and John Davis, and this is the county, and John Strozier. They found him up at Lake, I'm trying to think what lake was it, up in Michigan. I can't even think. Anyway,
okay.
They found him and state that he had committed suicide. And I know the boy's left-handed, and the gun was in his right hand. And nobody bought that. You know, so if you don't know these people, you would never ever second guess some of them. But when you know them and you know their habits, you know what they're talking about and doing or not doing, then you'd have to wonder what on earth would cause the other one. The fella found down in the loop committed suicide. School board was
yes, school board president Scott. Is that Scott?
His son is alderman now.
Michael Scott.
Yeah, that's it. Never would have. In love with life. Never would have committed no suicide. You know, that's why I don't mess around. I don't take white folks' money. I don't mess with them and hope they don't mess with me. And I made it this far. I guess I can continue to make it. You know.
While you're at it, the Vidoliak group, tell me a little bit about them. I mean, who were they? What were they all about? And so antagonistic against Harold Washington. Why was that?
Now, that I know Eddie V, and I know him as a telephone man. I've been to his house to install his service or repair his service, and I've seen him around whole lots of different places. Harold is not an Ed Burke. I mean, Eddie V is not an Ed Burke. He, believe it or not, I don't believe he's ever been prejudiced, against blacks or in any way racist. This guy, straight up business and making money, he wanted the power, and didn't care what he had to do to get it, So what you saw and read about, a lot of it was manufactured. It wasn't Eddie. Eddie, believe it or not, has taken care of all of the ones that Governor Thompson jailed. They all, when they get out of jail, I'm talking black, some aldermen, he set them up, put a suit on them, he take care of them. I know of no white elected official that would take care of a black that go to jail. Eddie is the only one I know, and that's why they go to him. Harold's best buddy, which was Clarence McLean, where do you think he ended up at? With Eddie. That could not have happened if it, because he got railroaded too. You follow me? Clarence McLean went down. The feds went after him and buried him. This is before Harold ran for his re-election. They also got Ronald Robinson. And I do believe that, I don't believe Eddie got no funny feelings about Ronald Robinson. Did you know him?
Who, Ronald Robinson?
Yeah, Ronald Robinson was the guy that Harold put a lot of faith in and made him CHA head. I wish you could have stayed there.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of him. But,
yeah, well, he was a cop. And him and a few other people established the Chicago Patrolmen's League. So they organized, and that was a no-no. Boy, I'm telling you, the white folks went after him. And the girl, I can't think of her name now. She was a police officer too. I used to take them coffee when they were on duty guarding the alley behind 11th Street police headquarters. I'd roll up in a telephone truck and make sure they had their coffee in the morning, But anyway, you talking about Eddie V. I have the utmost respect for him, and for one reason. He took care of a lot of black people.
That's great.
And I don't know no white politician that could touch him.
That's great.
Taking care of black people. Now that's a fact, And these are people that was taken down to 219 South Dearborn and handled, you know what I mean? So it's just strange. Well, Chicago is a gangster town. There's no doubt about that.
I agree with you on that.
Everything about Chicago is gangster.
That's right.
Now, Blagojevich, the only reason why I bring him up is because he is the other, he's the other white elected official that made Luana Peters deputy governor. Put her in a pretty good position in state government, and took care of her, took care of most blacks, all that came to him, anything he could do for you, he would do it. I bet you can't guess who really pulled it out for Harold. Which elected official really stepped out and backed Harold when it looked like he might lose, might not make it, might lose the race for mayor.
Yes.
Hines and the boys in the 19th Ward and the 12th Ward, they all changed and went Republican. Eddie V did too. You remember how that went?
Not that one. That was
not that. That was when the primary. They lost the primary. Harold won, and he was not the Democratic nominee.
Okay.
And they had to go. They were not partisan. They were partisan. Yeah. In '83, the mayor's position, the clerk, city clerk, and treasurer was partisan positions. Richard M. Daley that changed all of that and made it nonpartisan.
Mm-hmm.
So that you won't have no problems with re-election. But anyway, Harold and Eddie,
okay,
they're really friends, believe it or not.
Well, I'm telling you, we're glad that you did call in. We got about 2 minutes left. And I want to thank you, Brother Edwards, for calling in tonight to tell us about some of the final days and final years of his life. So we really appreciate you.
Good guy.
And I certainly will be calling you tomorrow off the air. Okay?
Okay, great guy.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We're again glad that you all join us tonight. And in the depth of both of these great stalwarts of gentlemen, they both are buried here in Chicago. Jesse Owens is buried at the Oak Ridge Cemetery, and so is Harold Washington. So a lot of great people have come through Chicago, and we're so thankful for the lives of Mayor Washington and Jesse Owens. Next week, we will spotlight Mary McLeod, or Mary J. McLeod Bethune, and we will also look at this subject, Black on Black crime and the violence in our community. My question will be with us tomorrow or next week. What is going on in our communities today? We need to talk about that, but I want you to look at some of the great things of Mary McLeod Bethune. Have a great night, and God bless you all is my prayer.